Hello mathematicians, puzzlers, and other curious people. In this video, we are going to look at some indirect measurement, which means we'll be using some facts to calculate something that for whatever reason we weren't able to measure directly, such as by just holding a ruler up to it. So in this problem, we're given certain information. So we're given that the total perimeter of some rectangular object, in this case it's a field, is 380 feet, so that's all the way around. We're also told that one of those dimensions was 75 feet. In this problem, that is the width, and for situational reasons, we were not able to measure the length. So what we're going to do here is some indirect measurement to calculate that length. So for this specific problem, what I can do is take this formula for the perimeter, 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, which is just the result of adding up all the sides, and plug in what we know. So we know the width is 75 feet, and the perimeter is 380 feet. And then we can just walk through and copy the rest of the problem. And then we can just start simplifying and solving. So let's see, 2 times 75 would be 150. So then we need to subtract that 150 from both sides. This really is the easy part, where we're just working through the equation steps. So we've got the double the width is whatever 380 minus 150 is. Here I've got a calculator right here on my computer. Let's see, 380 minus 150. Any standard calculator can tell you that, and it turns out it's 230. Well, now we need to divide out the 2. So if we know double the width, clearly we need to cut both sides in half. So that width turns out to be whatever 230 divided by 2 works out to be, and that's 115. So that tells me that the width of that rectangle is 115 feet. Now, that wasn't so bad. The only tricky thing was knowing how to get the information we had, the perimeter, and the dimension we knew, plugged into the problem. But if we had to do several of these, it could be really useful to not have to do that whole equation processing stuff, all those steps every single time. It could be a bit nicer to solve that equation once and for all, so that then we could automate the process using a spreadsheet of finding out the width given a particular perimeter and length. So I'm going to copy this formula over again. So we know that the perimeter would be double the length plus double the width. Then I'm going to look at what steps I did here. So first I just plugged things in. Well, I don't have anything to plug in, so I'm not going to change anything for that one. The next thing I did was evaluate one of those terms. Well, I can't do that for this one because I have to leave my perimeter and my length as variables, so nothing changes here. Now in this next one I did change something. I subtracted 150 on both sides. Where did that 150 come from? Well, that was double the length. So now I'm going to just subtract double the length on both sides. So on this side, I'll have the perimeter minus double the length. works out to double the width. That makes sense if you think about it. If you take all the way around the rectangle and you take off 2 of the sides, well, that's got to leave the other 2. So if you take off the 2 sides that are the length, that leaves the 2 sides that are the width. Well, what I don't specifically want to know about double the width. I want to know about just the width. What did I do here? I divided by 2. I'll do the same thing. So here's what I see. If I take the perimeter and subtract double the length, and then that difference I divide by 2, that'll give me the width. Now this formula can help me out. So I'm going to need to keep track of this formula because it's going to be very useful for dealing with more than one of these. Now, because I'm a mathematician, I'm lazy, so I would like to make this process automatic. In order to make that happen, I want to set up a spreadsheet to kind of deal with all that arithmetic for me. So here's a blank spreadsheet. I know I'll need to put in the perimeter for each, and I'll need to put in the dimension I know, the length, to calculate the width. I'm going to start this off with the one I already calculated because that'll help me check to make sure that I type everything in right. If I make a mistake, I'll probably get a wrong value here, so that'll make it a way to check my work as I'm programming this spreadsheet. So a perimeter of 380 feet and a length of 75 feet. I expect this to result in a width of 115 feet. Now I'm going to use this spreadsheet to do that arithmetic for me. So that will equal, well, let's see, here's my numerator, the perimeter minus double, so 2 times the length. I'll calculate that difference and then divide it by 2. And I see that this spreadsheet gives me 115, just like I wanted it to. So if I had different information given to me, like a 600-foot perimeter and a 50-foot width, or a 450-foot perimeter and a 20-foot width, or a 450-foot perimeter and a 40-foot width, or even an 800-foot perimeter and an 80-foot width, or sorry, length, not width, darn it. They work the same way, so that's why I got tangled up in that. Check yourself. But yes, in this case, we're calling those the lengths, but yes, because of how rectangles are, this formula would actually work for either. So I've got all those lengths put in. I'd like to know the widths that go with that length and perimeter. So I can just drag that formula on down and it tells me. Now this formula can do weird things if you give it inputs that are senseless. For example, a 10-foot perimeter with a 30-foot length on one side. Try to draw that. You'll have a problem. Apparently that would require a negative 25-foot width, which is not a thing. So it's like they say about computers, garbage in, garbage out. If you give it something that doesn't make sense, it'll tell you something back that doesn't make sense. But as long as you give it values that are consistent with being possible, it'll give you a good answer back. So that's all I've got for this video, but try some different things out and keep in mind that if you're going to be doing, repeated calculations, it can definitely be worth setting something up to do some of that arithmetic for you. And other than that, for now, I'm going to say calculator.